President Biden, our ally, Israel's ally, has said in terms, if they go into Rafah, I'm not supplying the weapons. Will you say the same?
I think it has been truly tragic. Over 35,000 people have died, 70% women and children. Gaza's healthcare system completely dismantled, every single university destroyed, as well as schools.
Well, we don't believe they should go in for a major operation in Rafah unless they have a plan to move people out of the way and to make sure they have shelter and food and medicine. We haven't seen that plan, so we don't support a major operation in Rafah.
And we see attacks on journalists, health workers, and the government has done very little. In fact, when we look at the role that we're playing, we are aiding and abetting.
But I do think the US and UK are in quite different situations. The US is a massive bulk supplier of weapons, sort of state to state. We don't do anything like that. Indeed, UK export of weapons under our very strict licensing system is less than 1% of Israel's weapons.
But this is what are war crimes that are happening on a daily basis. Our arms licensing system, which we're constantly told is robust, it's so stringent, that's an absolute lie.
President Biden has very clearly said, if you take this action, there will be this consequence. It's not about how much is supplied, is it? It's about the principle. And
I think the principle, in our case, is that we have a very strict system based on legal advice to the Foreign Secretary.
We have a precautionary principle, well, we're meant to anyway, which hasn't been upheld. Now, David Cameron, as Prime Minister in 2014, under a coalition government, reviewed arms sales to Israel during its conflict in Gaza and said that if that had continued, arms sales would be suspended. Now we have a higher death toll. We've got a potential assault into Rafah where 1.5 million people who are already displaced have nowhere left to go, and we are not suspending arms. It is unacceptable.
And our job is not to publish that legal advice or comment on the legal advice, it's to act consistently with it, and that's what we do. It's a rolling process that looks at what Israel is doing, looks at humanitarian aid, looks at the treatment of detainees, and crucially looks at the behaviour of the Israeli Defence Forces and asks that central question: is there a serious risk of a serious breach of international humanitarian law?
Click here for when Laura Koonsberg tweeted Tory lies. What a surprise!